Today, we are honored to welcome Matthew Strunk to the show today. He is an amazing entrepreneur. He's the founder of Shift, and what he really talks about is the hidden path and how we can actually find our purpose and paradoxes of success, and basically how we can become unstuck. Because so many of us are kind of stuck in our lives and we really don't know where to go in a sense. And Matthew really helps people kind of get out of that and into their true purpose. So, very excited to have him on the show today. How are you?
Doing all right, man. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to dig into it.
Yeah, man, for sure. So I'm very interested to hear your story and how you got in a personal development place and finding your purpose and all that.
Yeah. I guess I'd probably take you back. Man, I don't know. I guess I'd take you back to young adult. Well, I guess childhood. I hate to start from childhood always, but that's where all the stuff seems to to stem from. But as a child, I grew up in a pretty poor family, I would say, and had some issues. My father struggled with like bipolar disorder and like schizophrenic kind of tendencies and things like that, which was very confusing to deal with as a child. I remember there'd be moments where I'd be sleeping and, my door would just get kicked off its hinges and my dad would come in screaming at me about something that like never happened, like stuff like that, which was really difficult to deal with. But then on top of that, he was actually self-employed. My grandfather had started a business that he worked for. And because of that, I also worked for him and I was kind of stuck in that family business, if you would. So when my friends were out playing in the summer, I was just working all the damn time, basically. And then fast forward to out of high school, I think I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. But what I knew is I didn't want to work anymore because I was just forced to work all the damn time. So that led me onto the kind of entrepreneurship path of like, you know what? Oh, that's it. I'll just make some drop shipping website. I'll automate all of it. I'll make millions of dollars. I won't do anything. This is perfect. So I dropped out of college, started a business, and it failed miserably. And, I was just very broke, stuck, lost, confused, all the kind of things you might expect. And I was like, man, there's got to be something better than this. And I think it's probably tied to money, maybe, and status and achievement. So I just kept trying with the business stuff. I floundered around a little while, joined the military. But in the background, I was starting and failing businesses the whole time. And eventually one hit. And, it was like a Inc. 5000 fastest growing company and all the things I ever wanted and won the awards. And after that, I started another company and that one hit too. And then I started selling companies and making millions of dollars in these big exits, which is like everything that I was missing growing up, And I still felt stuck and lost. And like, so I was like, shit, now what do I do? Like on both sides of the wealth coin, I don't necessarily feel any more fulfilled. So what am I missing here? And that set me off on a different path. And that's what I now call the hidden path, is what I discovered throughout
Awesome,
that
man.
journey.
Very interesting story.
Yeah.
It sounds like you basically had two paths that you went on, like the one where you weren't very financially aware, but then you came on to the entrepreneurship path and essentially you got results, but it still wasn't what you were looking for.
Yeah.
And that must have been frustrating right there.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's like, you look at this mountain or this, and you're like, oh, I think up there is like, that's what I want probably. And then you start climbing it and, you just keep kicking the goals to make them bigger and everything else, and then you get there and you're just kind of like, man, this isn't it. And in the beginning, like when that first starts happening, you just keep making bigger and bigger goals, like if I can make, I still remember I was like, if I can make 50 grand a year, I'll be set. And then I was like, nah, I probably need like 100 grand a year, And I was like, no, it's like, it's probably like a million. Like you just keep kicking it to be bigger. And yeah, you just kind of keep chasing it for what reason is, yeah.
Do you notice that a lot in people? Do you see like people kind of go down that path looking for maybe financial resources and they'll think that will make them fulfilled?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think, well, cause I think part of it like is this like pursuit of financial freedom with the idea that that would like unlock your time and then you can do all the things you ever wanted to do in life or something like that. So it's like chasing the wealth to unlock like the permission or the time to like start enjoying your life or something. Yeah, I definitely feel like I see that a lot in high performers.
Yeah, where do you think that comes from exactly?
Well, the simple, I guess, answer, I mean, not simple, actually, it's not simple at all, but I would say that it almost always comes from my experience with the clients I've worked with. It almost always comes from childhood or early adult experiences and trauma and things like that, which is hard to correlate like right off the rip. It's like, why would that matter? But it's like a lot of these high performers I work with are trying to prove to someone like that they're enough, you know, and this is their validation is how much money they're making. And this is all those things. And if they make enough and when they are finally enough inside, then they'll start to live a more fulfilled life and that's happy and everything else. But yeah, I think it stems from childhood typically.
Yeah, that makes sense. I see it a lot as well. Like something I've been doing personally lately is basically contemplating the mission in a sense, because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of us we don't know what we want, and in between things, like I'll just kind of ask myself empowering questions like, where am I going? And things like that. Like Sunday's kind of a reset day where I'll basically kind of foresee the next week and challenges that may come up
Mm-hmm.
and how I respond within them.
Yep.
Instead of like being super reactive, I can actually respond because I've kind of seen it already in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're already doing a lot more than a lot of people are, I think, because a lot of times you just kind of get stuck in that cycle of doing and you know, you never actually stop to reevaluate why am I doing this? Like what is it I'm actually trying to accomplish, you know?
That's right, man. So a lot of us we're kind of stuck in life. Like as you kind of mentioned before, like we're not really in touch with our purpose and what is real. So how can we start to become aware of that and kind of slowly step out of that? Because I probably assume that's a process, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a process. So I have a bunch of thoughts on this and so I'll try to keep it concise, I guess. I would say the first step is awareness. So knowing that you're stuck is a good first step because you're at least aware of it. But I think a lot of us are stuck because we're doing things in life that we were told we should do in order to get the results that we should want. And ultimately, what those individuals lack and what I lacked is clarity, kind of like what you were saying, clarity on what matters to them in life, clarity on like what it is they're trying to accomplish, clarity on what a good life looks like to them. And without that, you don't really have a direction to move towards. You're just kind of going through the motions and all those things. So I think getting really clear and being able to articulate a vision for your life is a very crucial first step. But unfortunately, there's some prerequisites to get to that point.
That's right. I feel like a lot of us have kind of showed this path of what we think is the right way, and like there's always like it's always out there seemingly instead of like in this present moment.
100%. Yeah. Yep. It's always, what do I need to do out here so I can finally be, you know, it's funny. I was working with a client the other day and, you know, he has a tough story because he was in the military and he was deployed to Afghanistan and got like blown up by an IED and like ended up getting medically discharged and everything else. So like overnight, his life changed drastically. And fast forward almost 20 years, and we're working on career change, like a pivot in career. And like ultimately, like he is looking out here for all the things he thinks he needs to do so he can start feeling a little bit more fulfilled. But for him, the work is actually in here. It's inside of him is the work is where it needs to be done. But he's trying very hard to not do that. So it's like I want to find it out here. I want to find it on a Google search or in Chat GPT. Like I don't want to find it in here because that's scary and gross and ugh. Like, but that seemingly is where you will always find it is inside of yourself. You just got to find that space for yourself to do it.
100%, man. Like, because there's so many distractions, as we mentioned, but really cultivating that awareness within and being able to have the relationship with ourselves to actually give ourselves permission to go for what we want.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of us who don't give ourselves permission to actually go after what we want in life.
Yep. Yeah. And sometimes that even stems because they don't think they deserve it or that they're capable of it, you know, like the limited beliefs that are out there also comes up a lot where it's just like almost like you dismiss it, you know, like you said, you don't give yourself the permission, but you also dismiss it because that's for other people. You know, I'm not attractive enough or I'm not smart enough or I'm not whatever enough to go after that dream. So let's be realistic and stick to the script, you know?
Yeah, the sense of like I'm not enough. That's a big thing for people, and it really holds them back.
Yeah. Yep. And I don't know if you see that in your work, but it's crazy to me. Like the more I do this, like the more that really is a big part of it all. It just that feeling of not being enough with yourself is a big part of it, man. It's I wouldn't have thought that years ago, but I find that to be the case across many different backgrounds and different clients who are seemingly very different, but it all ends up kind of stemming back to similar things at the end of the day.
Yeah, it definitely does. Like really understanding that because we try to do everything right and essentially like to go the path, and we said it's not enough in our lives. Like we're just not fulfilled, and the reason for that is because we're not actually listening to our heart and our own path. That is actually our purpose, essentially.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. You know, I was talking to someone and I'm just like, when you're chasing after things that you think will make you happy, but you don't know that it's actually aligned with your truth and what you want, what kind of makes sense that you would feel empty after achieving it because it's not actually what you want. You just think it's what you want. So yeah, sure, when you get it, you feel like it's not it because it's not what you actually wanted the whole time, you know? You kind of been running ragged with the wrong playbook and just yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, even just thinking about it, it's very interesting, like why people do that in a sense. We have to be like really disconnected, and we kind of get this wake up call that kind of leads us back in a sense.
Yep. Yeah. And maybe that's necessary, you know, it's a necessary process that you have to go through that arc of sorts, you know. But
Yeah, and I mean, I like to think it doesn't have to be like that, but it is like that for many people.
yeah, same. I've done a lot of thought experiments around that. I'm like, can you circumvent that, or like, do you kind of have to go through that? Like, I don't, you know, I like to be able to help people to make that as short of an experience as possible, but sometimes, you know, you just I guess have to experience certain things, maybe. But time will tell.
What exactly do you recommend for people if we're in that place to kind of shed the light of awareness on it and kind of begin the process of our real purpose in a sense?
Yeah. So my recommendation normally is to identify an MVC, which stands for minimum viable change. And what I mean by that is in our lives, we find ourselves, we kind of talked about it earlier, very distracted. There's lots of noise, lots of fog. And that could be your phone, you know, digital kind of distractions, Netflix, video game binges. It could be nutrition. Perhaps you're eating poorly, which literally leads to brain fog and you can't like even think straight. Maybe you're sleeping poorly. Maybe it's toxic people in your lives or it's career, whatever it is. It's different from person to person. But what seems to be the same is that there's a lot of just noise and distractions that is just keeping you from being able to see clearly. So, step one is identifying what those things are and then putting together a plan to make the minimum change necessary to create the space needed for you to gain the clarity necessary so you can finally hear and finally figure out what it is that you're trying to accomplish and what it is that would bring meaning to your life. But that can
Got it.
only happen when you create that space.
Yeah. So it starts with the plan and self awareness. It sounds like. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep. And just audit in, like audit in your life and write it down. Make it real, you know? Like write down the different areas like sleep, nutrition, movement, nature, digital, family and friends, presence, and then just grade yourself on how you perceive it's going and then write down the actual barriers that are in place. They're pretty obvious once you start doing the audit, but a lot of us don't make it real. We don't write it down. So it just stays in our head. We never actually make a plan from it.
Absolutely, man. You mentioned creating a space. I think that's really important. Like kind of like I was talking about before, like asking yourself empowering questions and kind of meditating on what you actually want. Because if we're kind of constantly distracted by the outside world, it's really hard to kind of think internally and think for ourselves.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. And a lot of people, because when you talk about space, they think silence, they think meditation, and they're just like, ugh, I'm out, man. Like, I don't, that shit is hard. And yeah, it kind of is. And I think, but yeah, it's necessary. It's always necessary. Dude.
How do we start to create that space? Because it is very necessary, and I think a lot of us we don't know how to create it, and we're not really aware of this absence in a sense. We're so used to like the constant stimulation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I was actually working earlier about like being bored. And I was talking to someone. I was like, when's the last time you've been bored and you've had no external stimuli to stop that feeling within a couple of minutes? Like, think about it. Like, when's the last time you were just alone, quiet? And a lot of people, when you think about it, it's like they can't answer that question. I don't know. I don't know the last time I've had like 30 minutes to myself that I didn't immediately try to fill the space with something. It's like go to the bathroom, phone's out. Waiting in line to get food, phone's out. Because I'm like waiting in line and I'm bored. It's like, it's always like we're so used to grabbing that external stimuli. So to your point, we need that space. So how do we create it? It starts with that awareness so that when you pull your phone out in line, you're aware that you even did it because sometimes it's subconscious and you can start picking up on these things that are happening so you can start making adjustments to it. And a lot of
Yeah.
those adjustments can be simple, like with my phone, for example, like deleting apps and, turn off all notifications that don't matter and putting on blue light filters. Like there's things you can do that are pretty easy to do. It just requires a little bit of effort to do it and figuring out that you should do it, I guess. But start by increasing your awareness of all of the times you distract yourself instead of allowing yourself to just kind of be.
Yeah, just being able to sit alone with your thoughts in solitude is very important. Just being able to contemplate things, think through the day. That's the power of self assessment because that's how we improve. Like we can kind of sit back and watch it in a sense. Like, how did we respond? Did we like that? Was it a good response? Did it get us closer to our goals? And just being able to kind of contemplate, it's something that I don't see too often.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's like a lot of wisdom there, like, and you can call it what you want. I think people come from different backgrounds and they call it different things. Some people call it just like the limbic system acting, or just intuition is a physical response. Some people call it a spiritual response, whatever you want to call it. The thing is, a lot of the answers we're looking for can be found in that space. It's very, very powerful, Like I have this other client that I was working with, and he was working on building this drone business for a while and got his licensing, his equipment, and all this stuff. But he felt like he was stuck and not really able to get traction and all that. We did some work to kind of just quiet the space and calm his self down, like his sympathetic nervous system, like calm it down. And then I asked him quite simply, is this something you want to do? And he's been planning it for months and months and doing all this work. And in that moment when it finally got quiet, he's like, no, no, I don't want to do this. Well, that was easy. Shit, now we know why you're stuck. You don't want to do it. Like, but he was so distracted for so long, he just kept kind of bowling forward on it, but it was never aligned with what he actually wanted. So obviously you're going to be stuck because you're not in alignment with what it is you actually want in life.
Yeah, key word there is alignment.
Yeah.
And that's a process in of itself. Like being able to fail and just keep on going forward. Like being able to fail forward and persist through any type of obstacles that you're going through is really important because too many of us would give up when that happens and we just stay off the path.
Yeah.
But if we can actually become resilient and stay on it and just keep moving forward, that just helps us kind of stay in alignment and fulfilled, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I agree. And I think also people use that almost as an excuse of sorts, like, oh, the plan's not ready, or, like they're waiting for perfect conditions to move forward. Like, even if they think they know what they want, like they don't do it. Like, nah, man, you just got to move. Like, figure out the North Star that you're kind of pointing towards and then start making any sort of step towards it, and the rest will become clear once you start gaining some momentum.
Yeah, that's really key right there because it's kind of like a clear flash in a sense of the life that you want to live. Like you start walking that path and you start feeling the person you want to become. Like you start to step into that in a sense, right? But it doesn't last.
Right.
And you have all these things coming around, all these challenges, all these obstacles that kind of pull you away from that. But then you keep coming back and you kind of strengthen the sense of self and your sense of purpose. So we become more resilient to obstacles and challenges that may be on your path.
Yep. Yeah, man. Totally agree. Totally agree.
Yeah, and so I know we've talked about the hidden path a lot and our purpose, but I feel like there's so many challenges that are kind of blocking people from that. And we've talked about distractions and everything like that, but how can we become more aware by, say, asking empowering questions to kind of illuminate that path?
Yeah. Um, that's a good question. I guess there's some basic questions I guess I would ask about like what values you have in life. Like when I start working with a new client, I have this kind of onboarding packet which asks people about like what is it that you value in life? Like what do you care about? And a lot of people have like these surface answers, but they're not like really genuine. It's just like the things that sound good, but it's not necessarily based on their truth. So it's like, no. Like let's peel the onion back. Like what do you really care about? And it doesn't matter if it looks good on the wall. Like let's just get clear on that. And getting clear on like the legacy you want to leave behind in your life and like what does the life vision look like? And asking those questions and documenting these things is a good first step because now you start to assimilate some sense of what it is you're trying to accomplish, and it's easier to work backwards from that as opposed to just like trying to figure out what my purpose is. That's going to be an empty exercise, I think, almost always, until you get more clear on who you are in truth and what it is that you value. And only then, I think, can you start putting together some pieces of what, brings you meaning and whatnot.
How do we start to align ourselves with the truth in a sense? Because I feel like the truth is, the undeniable facts of reality in a sense. Like, I believe it's the highest form of frequency as well. It's like, if you know something is not right, to say the beliefs about yourself, like maybe you believe you're not enough and you are just a failure and all these things, like how does that make you feel in a sense? But if you believe that you're meant for greatness, you're meant for more, you're meant to leave a legacy, like that's going to leave a totally different feeling.
Yeah.
And that's what the truth is. So you have to believe in what is the highest form of reality, I find.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's well said. Yeah, and I think that reflects in your life too, you know? People
Yeah.
that are living from a place of fear and like, you know, resentment and whatever, like they just kind of get more of that shit served up to them. It's like, but if you are living in alignment with who you believe you truly are and you approach every day with, I don't know, that higher frequency, if you would, like, I feel like things get easier, you know? Like, even for my life, I feel like I worked my tail off and sacrificed a lot to be successful in one of my businesses, but part of it was because I was being driven by fear the whole time, you know, and I didn't realize it. And
Yeah.
I've also done it where it's been more so fueled by love of myself and other people and trying to help people genuinely. And it's not like financial success or any of those things is like exclusive of that. You can have everything, like you can have all of that and still be aligned with yourself. And I would argue that it actually becomes easier to accumulate those types of things if it's in alignment with what you're trying to accomplish. Which is kind of a weird realization for myself, I guess. You know, it's almost like try less and still achieve the same. But that's just because you're doing it based off of truth now.
100%. Like, because there's so many things that we could focus on in our lives, but we have to really find what matters to us and kind of expand upon that. Because if we kind of live this life that was given to us in a sense, and we don't really find out who we are, we're just gonna keep on being stuck, and we always want to kind of elevate out of that.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, 100%. And you had, even then, you said about the life you were given. I mean, that's a great point. Like, we all have our own backgrounds that are unique, but like, if you don't think that your worldview is impacted by your parents or how you were brought up or all those things, like, well, that's kind of silly. Like, it was, you know, and you kind of build this viewpoint almost based off of all of those inputs from other people. And that builds a narrative that you think is true, but whose expectations are those even? Like, it's like you're, you know, expectations from
Yeah,
Mr. Marblestone of the third grade, you know, like, I don't know.
yeah. A lot of us like we're carrying around these things that aren't even ours, and that's kind of sad
Yeah.
because we don't have that space that we're talking about, so we can't really see if these are things that I actually believe and these are actually things that I want in life.
Yeah, exactly. Whose belief is it? You know, is it
Right.
yours or not?
Yeah, and so many of us are carrying around disempowering things that are holding us back, and until we start becoming aware of that and shift our beliefs to something that's more empowering, we're just going to stay stuck. And you know, freedom is really about cultivating a sense of awareness and being able to keep moving forward because we get trapped by all these things, and you can't be free if you're just holding on. And that's where I see most people, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people equate freedom to financial freedom. And at least I used to. And I feel like a lot of people I know felt the same way. Like, that's what freedom was. And as I grow up, it's like freedom to me now is more like not about what I have. It's actually more about like what I don't have on my mind and weighing me down and, you know, dead baggage. And it's like, oh, well, shit, it's like a mindset that I'm in control of, you know, I can be in control of. Like, one of the most free times of my life that felt free, at least, was a time that was meant to be like completely miserable. I had no phone. I was getting yelled at all the damn time. Like, I was in basic training. And I was like just so chilling, man. I was just like free. And I think it's because I knew in that season of life, like, who I was. You know, I knew what I was trying to accomplish, who I was. And I always knew my next step. I just did the next thing. March over here, go over there, go to sleep. Like, and my mind was free of thinking about the past and worrying about the future and like doing all these things. I was just chilling. I'm just existing and being here in the now. And it was easy, even though it wasn't easy at all, but it was
Right.
easy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because you have a system in place,
Yeah.
and we don't really have systems in society that kind of help us kind of stay on path.
Right.
And it kind of has all these thoughts that we would think and decisions that would have to be made, but they're already made. So if we can actually apply it to our lives right now and develop a system for success and kind of work that every day and evolve it to where we want to go, that's where it really starts, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. Set yourself up for success. Be intentional. Don't just let things happen to you, you know?
That's right. Intentionality is key. I mean, there's so many ways we can go about that in a sense, but do you have any recommendations on how we can kind of develop a system for ourselves in terms of success? Like of course you mentioned create a plan, but like I feel like how you do anything is how you do everything, right? So cultivate a standard of excellence within ourselves and just being able to own this present moment. And that's where we take everything because I talk about like being the light everywhere you go. And yeah, just really got to kind of shine that in all places of our life because we may be doing good in some areas, but then there's like certain things we just don't want to address in our life, I find.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I would agree. And I think well, you know, you mentioned intentionality and all that. I think like an operating system for your life, um, I think there's probably a few ways to go about it. I think it's also potentially a slippery slope too. Like I feel like I've been in places where I've over optimized my life too, you know, where it's like I have like a morning routine with like all this stuff on it, and then I have like a late morning routine that goes off of that trigger, and then after my here's my lunch routine. It's just like all day is just like stacked with like you know green smoothies and meditation and this and like so it's like finding again that balance I guess of like creating a environment that's indicative of your success, but allowing yourself the grace and permission to have some latitude there too. It's probably a balance of the sorts, you know. But the other thing, you know, and I don't know if you've have found this at all in what you do, but I've also found that, like, so in the framework, the Hidden Path framework, which is the name of the system I kind of been working on to help people discover their truth and realign according to that. There's three phases. Like phase one is clearing that noise and kind of detoxing and creating a space so you can gain that clarity. Phase two is doing that inner work where you have to, you know, maybe heal some blockages if they're in place and really start to try to listen to yourself so you can gain that clarity and document what this is. And once you know, you'll know. But then phase three is that realignment phase. And what I've found is setting up that system that like you were talking about, and making like lifestyle changes, even if it's in service of that mission, it becomes like infinitely easier. You know, I don't know if you've experienced that at all, but like, you know, even in my life, like diet or exercise, like if I was doing it so I could have like a six pack, so I could like be more attractive, like it was really hard. But if like I'm nourishing my body in service of a mission, somehow it's easier for me to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Because now you know why you're doing it. And it's a deep purpose. Like it's not like the surface level reason that a lot of us have, which is why we stop when things get hard. When you have that
Yep.
strong why, like people you're doing this for, you have a mission, and you're in touch with your purpose. It's like I think it makes it more effective as well because you're not just doing the thing, but like when I'm working out, I'm thinking about my purpose. I'm thinking about my audience. I'm thinking about people I'm doing this for. How can I get better, right? As
Yeah.
opposed to just doing the thing, like actually being fully present with your mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
And this makes it more enjoyable as well.
Yep. Yeah. And also, I've even found that some of the stuff I was doing, I just dumped because it wasn't in service of who I actually care about now. You know, like my identity now or my mission now, maybe that doesn't actually serve a place in my life. I can just let that go. An expectation I held on to for some reason. But yeah, it makes it more clear of the ways you kind of run your life.
Yeah, that power of identity is key. Like actually have to back that up with action. So like we have to like identify how we want in our life, and of course like make it alignment with what is real, alignment with the truth, and kind of back that up with our actions in a sense, because that's what it really is. You have to keep the promises you make to yourself on a day-to-day basis. That helps build confidence as well.
Oh, dude, yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, like one of the first pages in the I'm working on a book for the hidden path as well, but one of the first things is a contract you kind of have to read and sign, and one of the clauses is that from this day forward you will no longer lie to yourself. Like, you're going to keep your promises to yourself. So don't promise yourself something if you're not going to do it, because that's just wrong. It's like you need to
Yeah,
honor that to yourself just like you would to any other loved one.
yeah. Keeping your word, keeping that integrity is so key. Like if you're gonna do something and you talk about it, right? Actually, make sure you can do it. Make sure that you actually are capable of doing that thing instead of just posted talking. And because then you're gonna start to lose integrity with yourself and other people. So actually, like have a plan to make things happen. And when you promise something, like actually, like, hey, this is going to happen. Like, don't just be loose with your words.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, and also be careful of who you share your goals with as well, because that's a lot of times we kind of just start to share goals with everyone, and that may not be the best approach. Like, make sure people actually have your back, actually want to help you, and also like they may be able to kind of amplify that in a sense, like a sense of accountability.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. People is a very big part of it. I have this concept called the four levers of change, and it's kind of like some of the different things you can use as leverage on your path to like making these changes, to start figuring out what it is that matters to you. And people is probably the biggest lever. Yeah, I think it probably is in both ways. They can support you immensely. Like if you get yourself into a community or, other folks that are trying to row in the same direction and trying to achieve similar things, you can hold each other accountable, like you said, and lift each other up. But on the flip side, if you spend your time with people that are not living in alignment, like kind of who you want to be, and they're kind of pulling you back into maybe some old toxic patterns, they can sabotage you very quickly as well. So I think it works both
Yeah.
ways. Yeah.
So it sounds like make sure like people you're around are actually in line with your mission, and of course, like we can't always control the circumstances, but we can how we can respond to them. But make sure that inner circle is actually like really about that life.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Like doing a people evaluator kind of like exercise, write down the people you spend, the five people closest to you in your life that you spend the most time with, and write them down. And, it might be eye opening as to,
Yeah.
are they bringing you up? Or are they holding you back? Like, what is the case? And
Yeah.
that's
It's not to say like we have to like cut people off and things like that, but we may have to adjust our relationship.
exactly. Yeah.
Like
Bound.
I mean, yeah, it just depends on the situation. It's kind of the power of self-assessment comes up again there. So
Yep. Yeah. Because even in my life, like I've had relationships that I probably would have identified as maybe not healthy, and it would be easy to just be like, all right, I'm just gonna hack that off and be done because that's easier.
yeah,
But like even a just a transparent conversation sometimes is all it takes. It's like, oh, that was easy. Like I I just needed to talk
yeah,
to you this whole time, and I just haven't because I'm scared or whatever.
that's
It's
right.
like, yeah.
A lot of times we have to be aware of how we're showing up as well. Like, and maybe it's us. Like, are
Yeah.
we doing anything? And that can be hard sometimes too. Just kind of look, hey, what am I not doing here? And just being able to improve upon that.
Yep.
So in terms of, let's go a little bit further down that, like, because I feel like when we start to become that type of person in ourselves, we kind of attract those people too. Like if we're on the path, we're growing, we're being of service, like we're focused on our health, like we're up leveling, right? The people around you are gonna kind of be attracted to that in a sense,
Hmm.
and those people are going to kind of start to come in your life in some way, shape, or form. That's what I found, and it may not be like that for a while. Like you may
Yeah.
have like certain people who have been around you for a while, but hey, they see you doing this and they don't really want to be around it. And you kind of have to be willing to go in solitude for a minute, maybe,
Yeah.
and just keep along that path. And eventually, they're going to show up at some point.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's well said. Yeah, it's amazing sometimes how it kind of works out, like it really does. If you're living in alignment, being the light, I mean, people find that, you gravitate to each other, and like you said, even past relationships, sometimes they'll want to make certain changes too because they're inspired or whatever it might be. But yeah.
That's a good point there too, because you can actually be a model in life for other people around you. And
Yeah.
like I feel like the best way to influence somebody is actually to live it, right?
Yeah.
And make your results look awesome. Like
Yeah.
make it look attractive, because then that's how you inspire people in a sense. And it's not through control; it's through just your example of how you live.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's almost like figure out your truth and then live it. And I feel like if you live your truth, it's one of the best ways you can teach is through example of living a life like that. And teaching is also one of the best ways to learn, ironically. So it just multiplies everywhere. It just helps everyone out.
Yeah, I mean, when you teach it, you get to learn it again, and you kind of learn different ways to go about it in a sense, because you have to kind of explain to certain people that aren't going to maybe basically learn how you learn in a sense, right?
Right.
Because we all learn differently. So kind of expanding upon that and just being able to learn off of that. Because like when I teach wellness, for example, like how can I make this something that people want to implement in their life? Because I'm already about that life. But
Yeah.
somebody who is like just wanting to get into wellness, like how do I actually make it inspired to do that, right? And it's just so many things you can learn, and you can take that in your own life as well.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I feel like, I mean, because even with the people I work with, like I'm also on the path, you know? Like it's not like there's an end point or something. At least I don't feel like there is. Like we're all just growing and moving together. So it's like I learn through that experience as well. I learn from my clients. I learn, like you said, when you're trying to figure out a way to position something for someone, it like makes you think about it differently and it might unlock potential in your own life. And you're just like, oh, wow, I was trying to come up with a tool to help them and it's like actually helping me. So it's like, all
Yeah,
right, cool. So that worked out.
for sure. I like that because like there's so many tools of success, but like sometimes we have things that we're not really aware of in our life, and just being able to help someone actually get out of your own head and actually kind of being of service, and just kind of helps you contemplate things and look at things in a different light.
Yeah. Yep.
So along that, in terms of service, like what do you find that is connected to purpose in a sense? Because I feel like a big part of that is service and being of service to other people, and because I feel like the more we grow, or more that we're able to give as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. I think that it almost I feel like it oftentimes comes back to that. Like I used to think purpose was this like magical thing, like I don't know, like a fortune cookie. Like you open it up and it's like yours to save dolphins. And it's like, oh, sweet. Like I know my purpose now is to like save dolphins. Like sick. Like I go do that. Some job title or something. But I think purpose evolves. It's like it's about finding meaning and like living with purpose on purpose is kind of what purpose is in a way. And a lot of times when you again get that space, gain that clarity and figure out what it is that matters to you and you can answer who it is that you are, when you have that truth and you can figure out what it is that you feel called to do, yeah, I think it's oftentimes very service oriented and leading with love even. I think you could say I feel like that's a lot of it is like every act of kind of sounds corny. I don't know, but like every act of love is almost like an opportunity to live with purpose.
Yeah,
Even.
I mean, it amplifies the mission in a sense, because when you help someone, and like because you're doing all these great things for yourself, you're up leveling and all that, but when you actually help someone do it, it actually amplifies it. Like some people, we don't want to share things, but actually the people who are in highest position actually want to be of service, and they understand that you actually grow in that process in of itself.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, instead of like, a win-lose situation where it's like I'm going to take and you're going to,
Yeah,
like no, like you can actually give and receive at the same time. It's like
yeah,
the only thing that like works for both of you. It's like cool. Like no one had to lose. We could both just bring each other up and
Yeah.
move forward.
I mean,
That's
it's the
pretty
person at the
awesome.
top,
Yeah.
and if they actually help people, they actually get better themselves in a sense. So it's not like you're just kind of like just helping people take your position in a sense. No, you're actually it's kind of the wrong way to look at it because it's an altruistic thing where you actually collaborate, and you also because teaching is part of that. Teaching is part of growth. So you have to keep in mind that it amplifies both.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep. Which is pretty sweet. Like it's like the only thing that like just multiplies like that, you know?
Yeah, man, it's like this virtuous circle and focusing on abundance rather than scarcity because
Yes.
when you focus on scarcity and lack, that's just when you get more of, and what you focus on tends to expand really.
That is true. Yeah.
It's the power of focus, because being distracted and all these things. But if we can train our focus and our mindset to actually focus on what we do want, and focus on our heart and all these things, it expands and it just comes better and better over time.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I feel, people talk about manifestation and stuff like that, and it's like, I remember when I was in the military, someone had recommend I read the book The Secret. Have you ever read that by chance?
I watched it.
Oh yeah, I think it's like a documentary, right? Yeah, and they're like, whatever you want, like you just get it, and I'm just like, all right, I want, and I'm just like, that shit don't work, and move on. But as I grew up, and I started to realize, like, yeah, like it's kind of real, like you said, what you focus on. It's like I have this vision board. I wrote a press release related to the sale of one of my companies like 15 months before I sold it. I had no buyer or anything. I wrote the press release the month that I sold it, like it's ready for distribution and all this stuff. And I freaking sold the company. Like it actually came to fruition, if you would. And you can call that the universe giving you what you want, or you can call it just focus because I had a very damn clear vision of what I was trying to accomplish. But yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, clarity of purpose makes things happen faster. Because
Yep.
when we're actually clear on what we want, we're not hesitating in our lives. We're actually going what we want with relentless, massive action.
Yeah.
That's where that it's like really mind body connection. Because with mind, like you're keeping that focus, keeping the vision in mind, but then putting the action in place as well. That's where the magic really happens.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And it's already going to happen. Like you have the confidence, and it's make it real.
Yeah, and it's like it, it's energy. Like I feel like energy is so important in success. Like being mindful of your energy and how you kind of come up in the present moment in a sense. And success is kind of like fuel in of itself, right? And learning how to harness that energy, it's so powerful.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I like that. I like that. The view of energy and how that. Yeah. No, I like that.
Yeah, because failure doesn't feel good, but if we can learn how to kind of alchemize that in a sense to turn it into success,
Hmm.
that's where it all starts. Because there's so many obstacles, but instead of looking at them as hindrances and these things that are just kind of in our way, like how can we leverage them in a sense
Yeah.
to get better and learn from that and understand that it's all really the same thing, just kind of how we kind of apply it in our own life.
Yeah. Yep. And then, it also comes back to that mindset. Like this can be a negative or a positive charged thing. It's just based on how you approach it and what you take away from that experience.
Yeah, because a big part of it is what we make it mean, like the things
Hmm.
that happen, and then there's how we respond to it in a sense.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And I've been doing like some different mindfulness practices, if you would. And I don't know how much you get into that stuff, but it's, yeah, it's real. Like I got a letter from my HOA, and if I don't think anyone would watch this from the HOA, but just saying, just as a caveat. But anyways, they sent me a letter because I put up a chicken coop. They didn't like it, and it's a big, like, fancy chicken coop, and they were just like, you need to knock it down. And I'm like, dude, F you. Like, got so angry and worked up. And I'm like, I see myself getting angry right now, and it's like, I'm trying to, but like the amount of like suffering associated with that, like silly experience is just a recent one. Um, like the amount of suffering because of replaying that email over and over in the letter, and like what's all the different outcomes that could happen, like is it this, is it that, like what if I say this, can that happen, and then oh maybe he'll get hit by a bus if I like plan it right, and like all this stuff that's just going through your head, and it's like all of that is what's leading this to be a negative experience, is me indulging into those negative thoughts, and it's like
Yeah.
I have the power to let that go right now if I want to.
Yeah, it's a skill, man. It's hard sometimes. Like just becoming more aware of how we respond to things instead of like being reactive in life. That's
Mhm.
so key because when we become reactive, we're essentially letting the outside world control us as opposed to like being a boss, which is
Exactly.
when we have agency over mind, body, and spirit. And that's where like you gain your power to kind of live your purpose and continue to be fulfilled.
Yep. Exactly.
That's not easy though. Like cultivating presence is something I talk about a lot, and we talk about meditation, all these things. Like having a strong presence, so where you can be in a sense of chaos, but actually still keep that calm center. Man, that's so so important.
Yeah, it's so tough too. It
Yeah.
really is. But yeah, now I look at them, I'm like, this is a training opportunity. Like when something,
Ooh.
sweet. Now I don't have to be all upset about it because it's just an opportunity for me to learn. I'm gonna treat it that way instead.
Yeah, how you frame things is very important. Like looking at his training, that's I really like that because it really is. Because next time you get faced with that experience, you can actually respond in the exact same way, or you can learn from it
Yep,
and continue along your path a better version of yourself.
exactly. Yep,
That's where growth takes place. Like, I mean, just because you failed doesn't make you a failure. Like, we're going to fail, but it's really what you do with that is going to make the biggest difference.
yeah. I was random. So I was teaching my daughter's 7. She just turned 7. And I was trying to teach her that concept of failing forward, which
Yeah.
apparently is too advanced for like 6, 7. But I tried it anyways. She was trying to do something and she can't. She's like, I can't do it. Like I failed. And I was like, good. And she's like, what? And I'm like, no, 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 no. That's good. Like you're going to fail. So you should be happy because that was one of the necessary steps on your path towards competence and on your path towards mastery is you have to fail. So good. You should be happy. Go do it again. Keep failing and you'll keep moving forward, you know? And she did not grasp that yet though, but it was her reaction was, what? No. But yeah,
Yeah. I
it's
mean,
a requirement.
yeah, you kind of come like battle hardened in a sense because you're able to deal with all these messes up throughout the day. But then life kind of like challenges you in different ways, and maybe you're in a different state of mind than you were before. So you kind of like hit with the problem at this certain angle. So it's kind of like, man, it's like really about being a warrior in many instances.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And learning from it, like you said, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, I
Training
mean,
opportunity. It's
I feel
data.
like the life that we live are the lessons that we teach, right? Because we can go through our lives and we can learn all these lessons, and then we can teach them to other people in the form of personal development, which is what I do, right? And you don't really have much to teach if you're not actually learning, growing in your own life.
Right. Yeah. I like that.
And the key to that really is, the hidden path.
That's right.
Because, you're left with two choices. You can go that path or the average path, right? One leads for success, fulfillment, and all these things. And the other one would be, this is mediocre, really. And
Yeah.
it's not what you're meant for. And the thing is, though, greatness, it comes with a lot of challenges.
Hmm.
And it's kind of designing you to be the person you're meant to be, like to hold the success wattage in a sense, so you can be able to actually sustain it and build it and grow it. That's where it's at, and you have to understand that you can have the pain of discipline or the pain of regret, right? And that pain that comes with success and all these things, it's like it's shaping you into who you're actually designed to be.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that from that frame too, it can help you with lots of experiences. We started, I told you about a little bit about my dad, and I used to probably resent it, but then there was a time where I was like, nah, like it's a different perspective of like, nah, man, like that was preparing me for my life in a weird, rough way. Yeah, sure. But I still learned a lot from it, and it allowed me to build the resilience and some of the other skills I used in my life to achieve some of the things I've achieved. You know,
Yeah, that's what it's all
yeah,
about, man. Like, those hard places, just kind of, how can we actually use this? Okay, this was terrible, but like, what can I actually learn from it now and move forward?
yeah, yep.
All right, man, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you sharing your story with us and your work and how we can actually optimize our purpose, right? Because there's so many distractions, as we mentioned, but really cultivating that inner strength and fortitude to live the life that we want and live a life of fulfillment and not actually be stuck in the matrix, right? So we can
Yeah,
actually do this and help people get to the other side. And the more passion that we live with, the more light we can live with, and just be a model for other people. That's what it's all about.
yeah, 100%. Yep.
All right, man. I appreciate you so much. And if people want to get connected with you and your work, where can we go?
The website for kind of this mission is illumashift.com. So that's ILLUMI shift.com. So that's a good hub for kind of everything. And then I've been literally just launched my YouTube channel to start pushing out more long form content. So that's /Matthew dash Strunk, just my name. So I'm gonna be pushing a bunch of content there, and you can check me out there as well. And those are probably the two best
Awesome,
places.
man. All right. I appreciate you so much and sharing all your insights with us. It's been really awesome.
Likewise, thanks for having me on.